All right, so here we are for the 4th episode of Boast-Cast, and we are interviewing Jennifer from Sewing Report, and she also has a few other YouTube channels that we'll get to a little bit later. You mind introducing yourself, Jennifer?
Yeah, sure. I'm Jennifer Moore. I live in the Atlanta area, and I'm a sewing enthusiast and YouTuber.
Awesome. So, where are you from exactly?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Where are you from exactly?
Where am I from? I'm originally from, believe it or not, Buffalo, New York, but I was born in Korea. I'm adopted.
Oh, very nice. So, you lived in New York for your upbringing primarily, and then you moved around ever since?
All right, gentlemen, I have lived in several different states. So, I grew up in Buffalo, but it was way too cold there, and the cost of living there is a little insane. I'm sure you guys in California can relate. The taxes are a little high, and it's super cold. So after I went to college in Pennsylvania, I moved down to Texas. And then from Texas, I went to Florida. And then from Florida, my husband and I live in Atlanta now.
Oh, wow. So you've pretty much stayed towards the East Coast throughout your life.
Yeah, I'm more of a Southern girl now. In fact, even though I'm Asian, I would talk to a lot of people on the phone, and they thought I was like some sort of like a white Southern girl, which was kind of funny.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah, people be like, I love your Southern accent, and I'm like, if only you knew.
That's so funny. How do you react whenever people say that? They just like, do you actually explain it to them, or do you just like take the compliment?
Not really. I usually just kind of internally, I find it kind of funny. And then if they see a photo of me, like sometimes I would, friend someone on Facebook or something, or they'd find me on LinkedIn, then I guess they figured out that I'm not white.
That's funny. Oh my goodness. So basically, I just want to get a bit of background as to who you are and like the type of careers that you've done in the past, and just a basic intro as to that kind of information.
Yeah, sure. I majored in communication, and I went to a very, very small school in Pennsylvania. And after that, I worked as a morning newscast producer in El Paso, Texas, yes. And I enjoyed that. I also interned at 3. So if you want to get a job after college, it's a really good idea to do a lot of internships.
Right.
So I did 3 local news internships, and I did them 3 semesters in a row. So I did that, I learned so much from these people. It was incredible. In fact, I still keep in touch with a lot of those people even today. So it's just goes to show that even people you meet in college, later on they might be able to help you professionally, or you should also never burn a bridge, because you never know when a person you knew from your past is going to come back into your future. So I worked as a newscast producer, and then after I did 3 years in El Paso, I went to Florida and worked at a 24-hour station. I was a special projects producer. So special projects is sort of like the more feature or like special story. So it's not like the daily stuff, but I did a lot of entertainment and celebrity stories, and I did politics and a lot of stuff with like food and other kind of fun stuff. Like I did some. I went to. I remember one time we spent like 3 days at Disney World, and I shot a whole show that was all about the Epcot Food and Wine Festival. So that, kind of led me to go down the YouTube road, just because I have a background in producing stories and producing videos. And I've always done that since I was a kid. I loved coming up with ideas. In fact, when I was a really huge nerd. So for all the nerds out there, just know that there's a bright future ahead of you if you are into really geeky stuff. So when I was a kid, my friend and I used to pretend we were shooting infomercials.
Oh, wow.
I loved infomercials. And then we also we were kind of weird kids, but in my free time, I remember in middle school trying to write my own sitcom. It didn't go anywhere, but just those like creative things kind of always stuck with me. And then I most recently worked at CNN for about 5 years. And during that time, the company was very cool. At a lot of TV stations, you can't do this because you're under contract, but at CNN, I was allowed to do a YouTube channel on the side.
Oh, okay.
And I started sewing when I got there, and started the YouTube channel because I noticed, I'm kind of on the younger side, not as young as you guys, obviously, but a lot of the people that sew, I noticed, were not in my age group. So sometimes when you're doing something and you don't see a lot of people like you, it's kind of hard for you to relate to them. I'm not a retired mother of 4.
Exactly.
And a lot of the women that were in my age group that did so, they all had children and I don't. So I thought maybe I could add a different sort of voice to the sewing, blogging, and vlogging space. And with the background as a producer, I decided to do a YouTube channel. And I've been doing it I've been doing this channel for a little over 2 years.
Okay, wow, that's some really good information. We'll have to touch a little bit, some of it throughout the conversation as we go along. But something that I was really curious about just initially when I first watched some of your videos, what really got you interested in doing sewing specifically? Were you actually looking up like sewing videos and then you just found that realization where there's not a younger demographic doing what you do and you just wanted to fulfill it in that way? Or what made you want to get into it on this level?
I had started doing YouTube. My husband and I, before that, we had sort of a blog. Blogging was the hot thing like 10 years ago, and everybody was starting to blog. There were a lot of professional bloggers. So we started a blog called More Approved, because our last name is Moore. And it was originally meant to be sort of more of a home and DIY blog. And I started posting quilting and sewing stuff on there just because it was what I was doing at the time.
Yeah.
And on my own, I decided to write this article about quilt prices. So there's something about the quilting world, and it takes a really long time to make a quilt. It can take years, it can take months.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't really understand how people charge, like how much. Like if I was to sell you a quilt, I would have to sell it to you for several $1,000s just because of how long it takes me.
Yeah.
And a lot of quilters and a lot of people who make things run into that really frustrating issue of not having people value your time, value your talent. So I thought I would interview some people in the sewing and quilting space about quilting. And I wrote this article. So have you guys ever heard of the book Freakonomics?
It actually does sound familiar, but you mind going into a little bit of depth on it?
Yeah. So Freakonomics is this book I read a few years ago. It's this guy is like a market researcher or something, and he wrote a book where he kind of explains how different things are linked. Like he has one chapter called "Why Drug Dealers Live with Their Mothers," and it's because you find out they don't make a lot of money. So there's a lot of things that are very interesting about economics that these people kind of found. So I was inspired by that, and I titled my article Quiltonomics. And it was
really
basically explaining the work and the time that goes into quilts. And I interviewed a lot of people who work in the quilting space. And what I found is that most of the people who make a living from sewing and quilting, they don't sell like handmade goods. They actually do things like they teach, they design patterns, they blog, they have a fabric line. And a lot of the people that are legitimately making a living in this space aren't selling anything. So I wrote an article all about it, and the article kind of went viral. Like it got close to 300,000 views, and this was a few years ago. But as I was blogging, I decided that I wanted a website and a YouTube channel that was just dedicated to sewing. So I kind of felt like when people looked at More Approved, if you saw the name, you wouldn't really know what it was about if you didn't look at it. So I thought the name Sewing Report would be a little more obvious as to what the channel was. And the inspiration behind that was more, I really liked the Colbert Report when it was on Comedy Central.
Yeah.
So I liked the idea of calling it the Sewing Report. So that's what I went with.
Yeah, and it's pretty relevant considering your past career, like with CNN and stuff. It's kind of punny in a way. But I really like the name for the channel. It's like really unique, and it actually opens up like the door before you even like actually know what the channel is about. So it's like straightforward and to the point, and that's like why I think a lot of your success comes from just like the name alone, because it's that unique and that it just draws people in,
Well, thank you. And the other thing I think I could bring is that I noticed a lot of the sewing vloggers were kind of a lot of them were making the videos in the same sort of style, and I wanted to do something different. A lot of the sewing vloggers, they'll do like a video like monthly makes where they show off all the clothes they made, but it doesn't show the process of them making it, and it's like someone in their bedroom just showing off clothes. So I thought I could bring some more creative production into it. So I've really been trying to make the videos a little bit more interesting to watch and also entertaining. My goal is that they are not only entertaining to people who do so, but that people who don't so can watch the videos and they can also get entertainment value out of them too.
I love that. I love that that goal that you strive for on each video. Is that something that you've kind of tried to maintain since initially starting the channel, or is that something that you've evolved to?
Yeah, it's definitely something I've done from the beginning. So the first videos I did for the channel, I actually shot in your state. I shot in Pasadena.
Oh,
so
nice.
there's this event called QuiltCon that happens every year, and it's like a quilt competition / convention, right?
Yeah.
So I was going there anyways, and I reached out because the other good thing about having the media background is that I'm able to pitch myself in a way that kind of has opened some doors. So I emailed the QuiltCon people and I was like, hey, could I come and shoot your event? And they gave me a press pass. I still paid to get in and everything, but at least they gave me permission to shoot all the events and to talk to people. So I went and I ended up shooting like a bunch of videos while I was there. I talked to some quilters. I got a lot of video of what was happening there. And I ended up making sort of packages out of. Packages are kind of the format for news programs.
Okay,
and it
yeah.
usually incorporates a little voiceover, some stand-ups, and interviews, and then a lot of B-roll. The only thing I would do differently is that I was shooting them in a very newsy style, and the YouTube style I found is very different. So if I could go back and do it again, I would have shot those videos and produced them in a different way, but that kind of got me started, and the QuiltCon people really liked the videos, and they ended up sharing them on their social media accounts. So that got me like an initial bump of traffic. It's been very up and down on my channel. Sometimes I get my video views are all over the place. So I've got one video with like 80,000 views and then some other videos with like 200. So you never really know what video is gonna pop, but it's been kind of interesting and fun for me to try to figure out the answer to all those things.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like you said, that's not really what you thought would be as good as it was in the past. Like you didn't anticipate that kind of success, yeah. I'm assuming. But that success is kind of what evolved your channel to what it is now. It's like a live and learn type of thing, and then you learn and you react and you just like go with the process. So it definitely, I think,
for sure. Even though
Go ahead.
Yeah, even though I have a TV background, that doesn't necessarily translate into YouTube success. My first videos were pretty terrible. So, and it was because like I had been producing videos for many years, but when I was a producer, I didn't shoot the videos, I didn't do the lighting, I didn't do all the technical stuff. So a lot of that part has been stuff I've had to figure out along the way, just by learning and by watching other people do tutorials and that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah, so something that I want to get into is, did you, like in the past, could you have ever seen yourself doing this as a career? And would you consider this like a dream job now that you actually are doing it and fulfilling it?
I am having the time of my life. I have absolutely no regrets about leaving my job, which I quit a few months ago. And this really is my dream job. I wish YouTube had been around when I was in college. Like for you guys, I think I would have started doing it a lot earlier. And I do have a lot of regrets about not trying to do YouTube sooner. So when YouTube first came out, I first heard about it in like 2006, 2007. And there was a show called America's Funniest Home Videos where people would send in their home videos.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
of course.
Bob Saget, who played Danny Tanner on Full House,
yeah.
He would like commentate them and do awards and stuff. And when YouTube first came out, that's what we kind of saw it as. We're like, oh, it's like America's Funniest Home Videos online. I never saw YouTube catapulting to what it is now, which is this major media powerhouse. It's not just a website for people to upload home movies on anymore. This is like basically, this is like the new platform to consume media on. And I'm really excited about it. And I do really wish I had started YouTube a few years sooner. I might have been a little bit more ahead.
Yeah, there's always that potential that you could have done something differently, but the fact is you did it how you were inevitably supposed to do it. And so just the fact that you are doing it and you are on this mission, I think will open up so many doors for you, and it already has, I'm sure.
Let's hope so, right? I'm having fun. I've launched a couple other channels since I have more time now. And it's just something I feel like I was made to do this, make videos, and the creative freedom from doing this is amazing too. When you're working for a TV station or for a company, you have to do the projects that you're assigned to. You have to do things that you don't really have a personal interest in. But now that I'm doing this on my own, I can make videos. If I wake up tomorrow and want to make a video about, knitting, I could do a video about knitting. And I have branched out in the channel a little bit. Since I went full-time with the channel, I do want to expand the content a little bit to include like crafts and DIY projects.
Yeah.
So I was kind of curious as far as like, because you have all this freedom now. So how do you decide, like, what's the process of I'm going to make this video versus another type of video? Like when you do like your dollhouse series, for example, where do you get the inspiration for that? Like, where does that start from?
Sometimes it's just what I'm personally interested in. I had seen some dollhouse stuff online and I was like, this is super cool. It might be a little creepy since I don't have kids, but I don't care at this point. So sometimes it's just what I'm into. The other aspect is I will see other videos and I'm like, that looks like a really cool thing to do. Maybe I could try that. I also get a lot of suggestions from viewers. I will ask people, what kind of videos would you like to see? Is there a sewing technique you need help with? So I've done several videos about that people have suggested I do. Product reviews are really big for me. I enjoy doing those. And sewing machine videos, I looked up my YouTube analytics and a lot of people are coming to my channel looking for sewing machine help. So I would like to try to do more of those videos since that's obviously what people are coming to the channel for, right?
Yeah, of course. And I was wondering, what do you usually receive a lot of positive feedback? And like, do you enjoy interacting with the audience that you've been able to build over the past couple of years?
Yeah, the audience is really the people that watch the channel are why I do it. My whole goal is to help people be introduced to sewing and also learn to love it. It's something I enjoy, and that's the thing I want to spread. Once I started doing sewing, I was like, this is so much fun. I want to tell other people how much fun it is, because most of the people in my social circles, the people I know, they don't know anything about sewing and they've never done it. So I wanted to show sewing in a way that was a little bit different and to also introduce it to more people. I think, especially for working professionals, they have the stereotype that wouldn't be for them. A lot of people have that stereotype that sewing is for retired women or for stay-at-home moms. But I do think working professionals can get a lot out of making things with their hands. So I want to show people it's possible. Also try to take the intimidation factor out of sewing. People are afraid of it. Also as guys, I don't know what your vibe on sewing is, but there's not a ton of guys sewing. And I'd also like to really encourage the fellas out there to give it a try, because sewing for everyone could be a good time. And I think there could be a future. In my mind, I think it would be a great way to meet people, maybe of the opposite sex. Maybe there could be some sewing singles events. I don't know.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, eventually.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I was thinking when I was watching your videos, I was like, man, she makes it look so easy. I'm like, I know if I try, like, it's not going to come out looking like that. It's going to be terrible.
Yeah, you'll take a finger off.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's what I'm worried about.
No, you'll be fine. And for the fellas too, I want to say there are some sewing machines that look a little more masculine. And if you think about a sewing machine more as a power tool, I think to a guy it becomes a little cooler. I've been talking to some male friends to try to get their read on like what might attract more men into sewing. And one of my friends was like, you know what, some of the terminology that is used in sewing seems so feminine. Also, some of the marketing, a lot of the marketing materials aimed at the sewing community is just very girly. So as a guy, you're probably like, wow, that does not look very cool. But I would like to say, if you are a guy out there and you're interested in meeting ladies, sewing and quilting events all the way, you're going to have a very favorable male to female ratio. Let me tell you, it's going to be like 95% women, and some of them are going to be in your age range. So don't feel like if you go to these events, it's going to be all, women old enough to be your mom or your grandma. So you can meet some high quality women. Also, they're not, they're interested in learning new things. So they're, probably quality people. They stay at home sometimes, so they're not out meeting people. So this could be a good way for you to interact with some of the ladies out there.
I gotta say, you're very convincing. I'm ready to start my own club here on campus. Like I can't. I'm like ready.
Yeah, start a sewing channel.
That's like way too insightful. Like you're taking advantage over Adam right now. You're like manipulating this guy.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you. So you know what, guys? QuiltCon was just in Pasadena this past year, but I think every other year it's going to be in Pasadena. Get to a sewing or go to a quilt shop. Go to a sewing lesson, because you're going to be surrounded by women, and even if they are not in your age range, they're going to have daughters and granddaughters to introduce you to. So, and they're going to think you are adorable. So I'm just saying here.
I get that a
Might be
lot.
something to think about.
He does.
No.
That's some great insight right there, and it's actually a good point to transition into the second portion of the podcast. We're gonna change around a few things, and then we're gonna jump right back into this. So bear with us, Jennifer.
Okay, great.
All right, and we're back to Boast-Cast. All right, we had a nice little intermission there, and we're gonna jump right back into the questions. So something that I was curious about earlier, you were mentioning that your husband has helped you out with it. Does he help you out on a regular basis, or is like the channel and all the other channels that you produce primarily just your production, or do you have extra help?
He actually does. Yeah, my husband and I have kind of had different times in our job and work situation where one of us was more able to do YouTube than the other. So right now it's my time to really focus on YouTube. His job is keeping him kind of busy, but in the past he has helped me with filming, with editing, and I've helped him with filming and editing as well. We're both really, we kind of have some very different interests, but the one interest we do have that's in common is we love making videos and we love playing with camera gear. So he and I both really enjoy doing it, and he's helped me on the channel. So a couple things he's done on my channel is I had him sew some underwear live on a show.
Oh, really?
And that was a fun live stream.
That is a great idea.
He sewed women's underwear. And he's also done a couple, we've done a couple like funny videos together that we enjoyed. Like I'll come up with a concept and then we'll both kind of work to execute it. So we did a couple videos together. We've done one where he cut my hair.
Oh, wow.
We did another where
I was driving around in a children's Disney princess carriage.
I am small enough to
Fit in it. And then we did another one where the whole concept is that he is shipping me in a box back to my mom.
How did that go for you?
I'm still alive, so apparently in the video, the post office does not ship live cargo. So lucky for me, they didn't do that.
Jeez.
Yeah, that is very lucky. I'm glad that didn't go quite as planned, but at least you tried, and that effort's what counts, right?
We did, yeah. And the whole premise of the video, we had the title "Huge Cutting Mat Review," so he kind of hijacks. The whole premise is that he hijacks my video and then sends me away, and then he takes over the video. So that was the whole. I'm surprised we didn't get any more complaints about it, but luckily people seem to have a pretty good sense of humor about it.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Something that I kind of want to transition to now is you have the sewing report, but you also host a number of different channels on YouTube. You mind talking a little bit about each one?
Yeah, sure. My husband, we sort of rebranded the More Approved channel to more be for my husband, James. So he's done some cooking videos. He does a lot of DIY type videos, and he's done some product reviews. And then after I left CNN, I started really working on a more personal channel. It's called Jen Talks Forever. I was getting a lot of, one of my biggest complaints and hater comments is that I talk too much. So I figured if I put that into the channel name, people couldn't complain.
That's true.
And
That's
then
smart.
after that, I also decided I was going to start yet another channel about the media industry. So I started another one called XTV Producer, and I've been sort of sharing insight about what it was like working in news and interviewing people in the media industry, other ex-TV newsers, and also people who still work in the business that can share insight on like career advice, you know, how shows really get put together, what it's really like. A lot of us can commiserate with the low starting pay in journalism. So there's a lot of fun in that. So I've been enjoying doing that and just getting to talk to people, but sort of like how on your podcast, I've had to reach out to a lot of people and say, hey, would you be willing to do, this podcast.
Sure.
And I've been getting a lot of yeses, which has been cool.
Yeah.
That is really cool, and that's a really interesting concept to exclusively strive for that kind of content.
And that's a new concept too, right? 'Cause it looks like it's only been up for 3 months. That's just something you kind of recently thought of.
Yeah, it is. And the thing I was getting is that, and that I've noticed is that there's definitely I don't know if it's like a digital gap, but the traditional news industry and the more of the new media industry, we're not really meeting in the middle. A lot of the people in new media don't know anything about newspapers, radio, or TV. And a lot of the people that I worked with don't know a lot about YouTube. So I want to try to marry the two and kind of share information. And I'm sure you've seen on YouTube, a lot of the younger people that watch YouTube, they don't trust mainstream media outlets. They don't watch TV. So for those folks, I also want to try to show them more of a human side of the news business. These are real people working in there. They're working very hard, and not everyone is this like boogeyman you make them out to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was wondering, out of each of your channels, which one of the channels do you enjoy producing content for the most?
Oh man, that's a really tough one. I like them all for different reasons. In hindsight, I do have some regret about not making my first channel more generic, like calling it Gen Talks Forever and doing everything under there. But at the same time, the content of all these channels is so different that I don't think it would get people to subscribe if one day it was a sewing video and the next day it was an interview with an ex-sports guy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
to
that's
some degree, I
definitely
do
true.
think it's good to have multiple channels, but it's also harder to create all the content for and keep pumping it out.
Yeah, I think
that's
it's smart.
real.
Like, for example, your sewing channel, you have a very big following on that, like, but they might not have necessarily found you if there's like 10 other videos about media stuff. And not saying they wouldn't be interested, but let's say they weren't interested in that, it might get buried. The sewing video might get buried within the rest of the videos, and they wouldn't even find the videos that they wanted to find.
Yeah,
so it is smart.
you really got to stick to that niche concept, and like that's what you did, and
Yeah,
that brought a
exactly.
lot of success. It seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your CPMs for ad rates, from what I understand, will be higher if you have a more niche target than if you have more general channel. So on my channel, I actually have a pretty high CPM for an ad rate, and I think it's because the people that are buying ads on my channel know what kind of audience I have more than say like a more generic vlogger who talks about everything. So I do
very
think that's
true.
helped, especially from the ad side, that if you do have a pretty specific niche, then you can get higher CPM rates.
Huh. That's something to keep in mind for the future, definitely. One other question I have about the sewing report. What really inspired you to sew your own clothes for an entire year? And while doing that, did you confront any problems or any challenges throughout the process?
Oh, I decided to do it. The more I found out about fast fashion, the more that I wanted to get away from it. There's a lot about the fashion industry that I think is kind of a dark spot in our society, and I really wanted to showcase that you can go without buying clothes. I'm a woman, so in my lifetime, I bought enough clothes and shoes for like an entire town. So I had enough in my closet that I was like, you know what? I don't really need any more clothes. I enjoy sewing my own, so I want to try to see if I can go a year without buying any clothes. I totally did it. Not to be TMI, I didn't even buy like any sort of like undergarments. I kind of just used what I had. And I did, of course, make a few of my own. So you can really make, and that's the thing I want to get across too, is that if there's something you want, if there's something that you like but can't afford, why not try to make it? A lot of people, like if you can't afford a handmade quilt, why not learn quilting? And I wanted to try to make my own clothes. It's a lot of fun. You can get exactly what you want, and you can also use the type of materials you want. A lot of the materials in clothing that you buy at like Forever 21 is actually not very eco-friendly. It's especially anything that's like polyester or acrylic, that's like a man-made thing. That won't biodegrade. So I wanted to try to make clothing my way and go to more of a sustainable fashion model. It's been a lot of fun, and I learned a lot from the process. I haven't made, to be honest with you too, because I was allowing myself to use clothing I already owned, I really didn't even need to make that much clothing because I just was using what I already owned. And even this year, I still haven't bought any clothing, and I'm going to try to continue that. And this year, I added a new like angle to the challenge. I'm not buying any fabric either. So that's going to be interesting. But I haven't even, like, I have so much fabric, you guys would be, it's embarrassing. But that's kind of where you get when you start sewing, is that you start, your sewing room starts to look like an episode of Hoarders. I don't want to get there. We just moved, and I had to transport all this fabric, and it was a pain in the butt, so I don't want to do that again. I'm trying to use up what I have.
Wow. Yeah, that was something I was really interested about and like curious. Did you have any challenges going into it initially, and then it just became easier? Like from the start, was it pretty smooth sailing, and you're just all for it?
I would say it wasn't really too challenging. It wasn't too challenging. I had a few makes that I wasn't super happy with, but I think it was more the choice of fabric I used with the pattern wasn't quite right. Another reason people make their own clothing is for fit issues. Like if you have kind of an abnormal body type, the ready-to-wear clothing will not be ideal for you. And for women in particular, that's definitely a problem, just because our bodies are so, even someone next to me that weighs the same, we might have completely different body types. So what looks good on one person might not look good on another. So getting the fit issues, that's probably the most challenging part, because even when you buy a sewing pattern, you often have to alter that pattern to work with your body. So that's been a little bit of a struggle, and it can be a little bit frustrating. I will say for you guys, again, another pitch for you guys to try sewing, there are some amazing men's patterns out there. You can look really fly and get exactly what you want. My husband made his own jeans, so you can really make a lot of really cool stuff. And then you can tell all the girls, be like, I made this, and they're gonna go crazy. So just saying here.
Jennifer, I am sold. I am definitely gonna at least try and get into sewing, or at least attempt it once. Like I have to now. I at least have to try.
Oh yeah, and you gotta try it. There's a blog out there that's done by a guy called Taylor. It's like Taylor, Taylor, like a men's tailor. And it's a guy who blogs about making his own clothes. He makes some really cool stuff, and again, it's stuff that you guys would actually wear too. Like it's like khaki pants, it's like collared shirts. It's nothing super crazy. He makes jeans. He makes like cool looking bags. Definitely check out the blog. You're gonna be blown away.
Yeah, it looks really interesting. Adam just actually pulled it up. We'll have to look at it a little bit later. But before we
Yeah, I'm telling you, and if you have a sewing machine, every girl on campus is gonna be like, that's awesome.
I'll take your word on it. Yeah, I appreciate the advice, and we'll have to try it out sometime. But something that I want to try and change the direction of the conversation to is your entrepreneurial passion and something that drives that for you in general. I know it's not an easy feat to totally change your life around, but you somehow did it, and you made the first step forward by creating the YouTube channel. And what kind of inspired that entrepreneurial goal to be a sewer on YouTube and make that your source of income and way of life, really?
It's definitely not something that I learned. I think being an entrepreneur and having that spirit is something that you have innately. Since I was a kid, I've been doing stuff like this, and I've always wanted to, and I don't think I realized how much I wanted to work for myself until I spent 15 years working for someone else. And I can tell you, working for someone else is not nearly as much fun. Since I was a kid, so some things I did when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I sold soda out of my locker. I don't know, I think that was probably against the rules. But my school had vending machines, but they didn't turn on until after school. So before school, I would walk around and sell cans of soda to all my classmates. And then in college, I did a little bit of that too. So I started using Amazon in like 2003 or 2004 when Amazon sold used textbooks. And there was one textbook that my college had. It was called West's Business Law. And I took the class, and then I bought the book used for like $50. And I noticed on Amazon they were going for $120. So I sold my book on Amazon versus selling it on campus, pocketed after fees like $50. And then I went around campus and bought a bunch of the same book from classmates and kept selling them on Amazon.
Wow.
I should have done more of that. So that's called
That's so
arbitrage.
smart.
And a lot of people are doing that now. They're buying stuff at Walmart and reselling it on eBay. And I was doing that from an early, just kind of early on. And I do feel like I should have stuck with it a little bit more. But that's something that I'm always thinking about new ways to make money or new ways to do things. My husband and I also have made money from buying and selling homes. It's a very risky, but it's also a very good way to build wealth. So we did that and we were able to get out of debt. We're also very frugal people. So over the years, we've just been able to save money, get out of debt. And at this point, we were in a position where I could actually leave my job. And I've been working on the channel for 2 years at this point, and it was finally starting to make enough money every month where it was just making a difference in the household. Now, believe me, I'm not getting rich by any means, but it was enough to pay for groceries. It was enough to cover all the expenses.
Very nice.
And because we're not living large, that made it a lot more doable. So I would tell you, if you are looking to live your dream, you might have to make sacrifices to do it. You might have to give up that new car or not live in as nice of a place. But if that gets you to your dream job or your dream business, then I would say it's well worth it.
That's wonderful advice.
Inspiring, yeah.
Yeah. Something I was wondering, what initially made you want to get into investing in real estate? And is it something that you plan to do in the future more?
Oh, for sure. So the real estate thing is all my husband. It was his idea from the start. So when we got married, we both had student loans, and I said, how are we going to pay off the student loans? And he said, we're going to do it through houses. So our first house, so this is actually my most popular video on YouTube. I made a video called We Bought and Lived in a $47,000 House, and we did that in Florida. So we bought the house for $47,000. We fixed it up a bit. We lived in it for a while, and then we sold it for $85,000. And then our second house that we have together, and I also had bought a condo previously and I made a little bit of money on it. So every time we sold a house, we used it to pay off student loan debt. The last house we had, we bought for about $169, and then we just sold it for $225. So we used all of the money to pay off the remaining student loans. And I'm sure you guys and everybody in college now can relate to the student loan issues. If you can avoid student loans, do it. They're the worst. They're literally the worst thing ever. I don't recommend them for anyone, and I think they're horrible. So stay out of debt, get out of debt, whatever you have to do. That's really the key to building wealth and being able to retire, is not owing anyone any money, so that any money that does come in belongs to you.
Yeah, it's great advice. Honestly, I'll have to keep that in mind in the future whenever I get into investing in that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I just have.
And the other thing about real
go ahead.
estate is that if you buy a house, as long as you live in it for at least 2 years, and it's your primary resident, you owe no taxes on the money, up to like an insane amount. Like you have to have like over $250,000 of profit to even start paying taxes. So if you're buying anything that's not like $1 million, if you live in it for 2 years, again, all of that money belongs to you. You don't have to pay the government a cent. It's all profit.
And that's just in the state that you bought the house in, or is that like a federal thing?
Oh, sorry, what was that?
That's in the state that you guys originally bought the house in. That's the
No, the good thing is that's everywhere in America. So if you were, say you guys bought a house for $100,000, I know in California that's a joke, but
yeah.
And you sold it for, say you lived there for 2 years and you sold it for $200,000, that $100,000 that you get from selling it, you get to keep all of it.
Wow. So if you only have the house for less than 2 years, you said, then there's no tax required on it then.
If you have to live there for at least 2 years.
Oh, at least 2 years.
But if you live there
okay.
less than 2 years, it's prorated. So say you lived there for a year and a half, you would owe very little taxes because you did most of the 2 years. But I think most people could probably live in a house for 2 years, and again, after that, you don't have to pay any taxes on the money.
That's really something to keep in mind. That's wonderful advice. Thanks for giving us that insight. Yeah.
And then Jen, I had another question for you having to do with the Jen Talks Forever channel. And I was wondering about this. Were the other channels that you had, like, did you kind of have the idea about YouTube when you quit CNN? Because I was wondering why you didn't like kind of do like a bigger like quitting episode to kind of make your channel go viral right off the bat.
Sounds like a crazy idea, Adam.
I had seen some people. I had seen some YouTube videos about people quitting their jobs, particularly the folks at BuzzFeed. And I was kind of like, well, and I looked on YouTube and I didn't see any people making videos about quitting their news jobs. So I figured, why not? So I kind of I just wanted to do a video just sharing my own experience. Again, I decided to leave my job for personal reasons.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I wasn't sure how the video would do. I know a lot of people on YouTube are not exactly a huge CNN fan, so I don't know. That's the weird thing is that's not even remotely the most popular video on the channel.
Yeah, I think it's different too, because a lot of times when I see those videos, it's like people working minimum wage jobs where they kind of like throw papers on the floor and they go crazy. Yeah. But your job, I mean, whether people have issues with the news station or not, like as a journalist, like that's a pretty respected position, like just in general. So it's like it kind of makes sense that you wouldn't do anything crazy when you quit, because like it is a respected position. Like a lot of people do see it as a higher end job to have. So I just thought it'd be funny though, like if you did go viral doing something crazy.
Yeah, and exactly. And that's the thing. I have absolutely no hard feelings against my former employer. I don't. And I think people trashing their employers publicly says more about them than it does about the company. So that's something to keep in mind if you're young and you're starting off a professional career. You don't want to burn any bridges, and you also want to make sure you're showing respect for the company that you worked for. No matter how you feel about it personally, it's always a good idea to take the high road and to, again, and I actually really found my experience there to be valuable, and I have such appreciation for them giving me a place to work for almost 5 years. So, I'm very happy to have the experience and to have that as part of my career.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's wonderful that you did it in a respectful manner, and you're on good terms with them still. And something that we're going to do now is we're going to try and wrap up everything, and something that we tend to do at the end of the interviews lately is rapid fire questions. And just really brief, quick responses, just a few sentences, and here we go. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, so how's the dollhouse coming along?
It's a little slow. I just bought some stuff to make the paint go on better, so hopefully I can finish it in the next 2 years.
Beautiful. All right, next question. Do you have any hidden talents that nobody on YouTube knows of?
Oh. I once wrote a Britney Spears parody song about Tybo, which was like a workout craze. And I like listening to country music, and I can sort of sing country, but I'm a little embarrassed about it.
Oh, don't be embarrassed. That's awesome, though. All right, third and final question. Tell us about the sewing machine that you currently use and why you use it.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Tell us a little bit about the sewing machine you currently use and why you have that particular model.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I still can't hear you guys very well.
Huh. Let me try this again. So, which sewing machine do you use, and why do you use it, basically?
Oh, sewing machine.
Yeah.
Okay. I have 5 sewing machines. Do you want me to tell you about all of them?
No, just your favorite one.
Favorite.
Yeah.
Oh.
And why it's your favorite.
That's really tough. I don't know if I have a favorite. I really do like the, I have an Eversewn Sparrow 25. It's a great beginner machine. It's very portable. It's very reasonably priced. And I love using that one and that's helped me make some really nice clothing. Again, I have 5 sewing machines. It's like picking your favorite kid though. So I'm not sure, I feel very conflicted about doing that.
Hey, they all have good things and bad things about them though. Is that what you're trying to say?
Oh, they really do, and that's the other thing about sewing is that once you start doing it, you're gonna have like 20 machines all of a sudden.
Oh, jeez.
Wow, that's awesome. That gives us a little more insight, and that's exactly the like correlation or like analogy that came in my mind. Is like it's right, like picking a child. Whenever you said you had 5, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to make Jennifer do this.
Yeah, it's hard, and there are some people that are very brand, like there are some real brand snobs. Like they'll be like, I only use Bernina or I only use Janome. I've had good experiences with lots of brands, so
Sure.
I don't necessarily feel gravitated towards one manufacturer or another. I think there are good things about lots of them, and I think it's also real. Like it's so taste specific. you could sit down at a sewing machine and like it, and someone else could hate it.
Yeah, very true.
Makes sense.
All right, so just because of time constraints, we're gonna move on to the final question that I have for you, and it's kind of a question that I just want your opinion on, and it's kind of personal, but just answer however you feel, okay?
Okay.
So, if you could go back in time to your college days personally, what advice would you give yourself, basically?
Oh, all right. So I would like to start off by saying that 18 to 20-year-old me was a complete idiot. I didn't make any like super huge life mistakes, but I just wasn't thinking about my future the way I would now. So if I could go back in time and tell my 18 to 20-year-old self what to do, I would say, don't waste your 20s away doing nothing. And I would also have started a YouTube channel in 2006. And I think the things I would do, while I don't regret my career path, I think I would have thought about, I didn't, like, social media wasn't really around when I was in college. For context, we got Facebook the last week of my senior year. So I had Facebook for exactly 1 week in college.
Nice.
So social media wasn't a thing, and isn't that crazy? I got like nothing done that week because everyone was on Facebook trying to figure out what it was. So Facebook, literally last week we had, and at the time Facebook was only for colleges. So you had to be at certain colleges and have a college email address to get an account. And Facebook was opening it up to different schools. So they opened it up to my school literally like May of 2004. So the last week, we're all like on Facebook instead of studying. It was a total wash. But I could have not foreseen just the huge impact social media would have on the future of the media industry and the future of my professional trajectory. And I really wish I had seen more of that coming. And that's what I would go back in time and tell myself, is to get on YouTube sooner. And also, like, the time you have in your early 20s, don't waste it. Do not. You might be like, now's the time to relax, hang out with my friends. You're going to have plenty of time to do that. You're going to live for a long time. So I would tell myself to do something productive, always have a side hustle, and I would have started building my own sort of business when I graduated, instead of waiting until a few years ago.
Wow, that's wonderful. Mad respect to you.
Yeah, that is good advice.
Yeah, definitely gonna take that to heart. And this whole conversation has been a great eye-opening experience. And basically, I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast today. Any last things you want to tell the audience listening?
Thank you, guys. I just want to say this is what you're doing is amazing, and I really wish you guys the best. When you would contact me, I was so flattered, and I'm really encouraged by young men like you who are doing something with your life and really trying to learn new things and to build something on your own. So don't stop doing what you're doing, and don't give up either. So while you're young, these are the times you can take risks. You guys don't have kids, you're not married. So even if you do fail, you don't have a lot to lose at this point. It's going to be harder as you get older and you have a family to be able to make moves like this, or to try to start your own business or live out your dreams. So I would say to everyone watching, make the most of your life. Do not waste it. Don't waste time, and make sure you're always trying to do something productive with your time.
Wow.
That's great advice, man.
Yeah.
I'm inspired.
I don't even know how to end this podcast. I'll just be straight up honest. Like, my mind is blown. Jennifer, you have been such an inspiration. And honestly, I can't wait till we meet up again later in the future and we get to talk about how you've grown over the past few months and the accomplishments and achievements that I'm sure you will achieve just down the road. Just a few months' time, I guarantee you're going to get a lot more publicity and a lot more views on your channel because you're headed in the right direction.
I hope so, although I could use some more male viewers like you guys. So if you guys could help me spread the word, that'd be awesome.
That's what this is for.
That's what we're here for. We'll do our best.
All right.
Adam?
No, that's it. Yeah, like Ryan said, we really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And we know it's getting late there, so we just want to say thanks again. And we hope you have a nice night.
All right, you guys too.
All right, we'll see you around, Jen.
All right, bye.